Okay, so in today's video we're going to be picking back up where we left off of the Rockwell's process library, this 3.5. So what I would like to do, we did get our system fully running, and matter of fact, I'll go ahead and start the client now. But we did get our system fully running within 15 minutes like we addressed, and I'll link that video to the show notes below if you'd like to see that. But what I want to highlight right here is how to start the process of using these global or these process objects. Basically, the linking between the program, right, the ACD file, the control logics program, to the backplane of the HMI server. So in this instance, I just started the sequencer, right? I just started the client. We'll go ahead and reset our faults. I just kind of get them out of the way. And what we'll do is we'll come back and let's see, refresh. Okay, acknowledge. All right. So what we'll do is I want to highlight this. It was a sequencer. So the sequencer is pretty in depth, but I'm not going to actually touch on the sequencer itself on this video because it does take a little bit of time. But I would like to actually touch on the installation of this motor and how the tag is passed, right? So what makes all this pop up, right? So it's good to understand what is the driving force behind all this. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we know for a fact that our motor name is a P3 underscore motor, right? So if we go back to the program and we want to find the P3 motor, right? So in that instance, we want to go ahead and find the sequencer, I believe it is. So this is an instruction examples. I'm not sure. Simulation. So what we can do is go P3. P3 motor. And we'll just cross-reference it, find it, right? And all I'm trying to do right here is show the instruction. So this is the actual instruction that's feeding the block, right? So if you look right here, this is the P3 motor. Now let's understand the way. So now we found it in the PLC code, but now let's dig a little deeper and let's look in the HMI. Okay, so what we need to do, we know we're on the screen for the sequencer, so the dose sequencer screen, right? So what we need to do is go down to back to our RS Studio, and then what we'll do is we'll open up the sample sequencer screen, and this screen right here. If we run it, right, and it may not work because there's so many global objects being passed, and that's probably what's happening down here. But what I wanted to highlight is that is the screen that we see right here, right? This screen is the screen right here. So now this would be the P3 motor. Now, so you might ask yourself, well, okay, so how does that work? So what we do is we could come in here and select that and go down to what they call global object parameter values. Now in this global object parameter values for this system, right, we have tag values that we're passing over, which is the number sign 102, 103, 120, 121, and 122. And this gives you a good indication of what it does, right? So it tells you in the description over here what it does. What we can do is right click it and go to edit base. When we edit the base, this gives the actual one we're using right here. So to understand this a little bit better, and what personally what I do is I open up Notepad. I open up Notepad, and let's do this. Let's cancel out of this, and let's go back to, so at any given time you lose where you're at, just go to edit base and find where you're at, right? And then right click, and you can tell exactly what everything's doing. So in the global object parameter definitions, this is where all this is spilled out, right? So we know that, you know, we have 101, or I'm sorry, 102. We know we have 103. We know we have 120. We know we have 121 and 122. So this shows you exactly, you know, what you need to have on there. But that doesn't answer the question of what it does, right? So in that instance, we could just keep highlighting down and say, okay, well, this tag right here, when we pass it over, so in the instance where we picked it up, would look like that. So no matter what we throw in number 2, right? So in that instance, right here, we'll go back to what we had, and what we're throwing in number 2, right, is we're throwing in this tag right here. So if you looked at it, you would, how you would build that is you would say, okay, well, this is the tag, right? Then we would take this back half, because this, in our instance, the number sign I'm sorry, 102 is equal to this tag right here. So if 102 is equal to that tag right there, all we have to do is take this and place it in front of this, and that is exactly what it's looking for. So in the instance of where we were looking for the object, right? Sorry about that. In the instance we were looking for this particular object right here, it would in the instance of that screen, it would have this as its dig down, or its permanent tag method that it's digging down to in the program. So we could do that, easily look at that by looking at the ACD file as well. But what I'd like to break down to is, like, so a simple way to do this is look at, say for instance, color. So in color, what they're doing is they have all this script, right? Well, it's really kind of hard to see, so let's copy it and let's take it on the outside. So again, we would have what we put in to 102, which is right here, right? And we would put it in right here. So all we would have to do in the instance that we're currently working is we'd come in here and we'd basically paste this in, and we would keep doing that so that we would get an understanding of what this actual syntax looks like, right? And I hope everybody's kind of following me. I'm kind of going down and making this look maybe a little bit easier than it, maybe it, some people may understand exactly what I'm getting at, and some people may not. So what I'm trying to break down to is that you have a global object, right? So you have a global object that's passing parameters, and once you pass the parameter, you have to define it as a definition. And in that definition, whatever you put, wherever screen you choose to use it, then you have to put in these, like, the tags that it's going to correspond to that section. So if we were to look back in the definitions, we would have to put in the corresponding tags that we would want the ACD file to look to, as far as the 102, 103, the 120, the 121, and the 122. And that would be to get it to fully function. So if we just simply copied this and came over here and pasted it, right, then I currently don't have anything in this, right? I don't have anything at all. But let's do this. Let's just to kind of show you what needs to happen, right? Is we could take everything out of this one. So what we'll do, and again, this is why I use Notepad, and I want to just kind of show you real quick, is I'll put that equals that, this equals this, and I'll just basically, tie them over, right? I mean, you kind of see where I'm headed with it, with what I'm doing. I'll tie them over, and then as soon as I get them all into the system, or into my Notepad here, what I'll do is I'll come back right here, and then I'll edit and put the same thing in here. So I'll come in and copy that, paste, and just, you kind of see where I'm getting at. This is how easy this stuff is to work. You don't have to, I mean, if you're building a new one, if it's a brand new system and you're just building it, you just want to know what your tags are, and to be able to point them to whatever you want to point them to. You don't. It's pretty understandable as soon as you learn how to break down. Okay, so now we have everything in here. So this will work now. But what I'm getting at is, as long as you know how this works, how to convert where the 102 was right here. So this used to be 102, right? Where the 102 used to be, as long as you know what to supplement and put in that value, then your syntax, when you pass that tag over onto this screen, will work. So right quick, we put that in there, right? And if you look, there's nothing on the screen down here, but we put it on there. So real quick, I want to just save, and then I want to come back and hit refresh, and then I'll come back to my sequencer, and you see I have a pop-up window working, right? This is the same pop-up window for this one. It's the same exact thing, and that's just because we copied it over. But what I want to highlight is the fact of how to tie them in, right? So how did we go back, and we can easily go in and just delete that too, right? Because it has absolutely no pertinence in what we're doing. So we'll just delete it, save it again, come back, refresh, and it's gone again, right? So the main focus is what I want to try to get at, is coming back and understanding the parameter passing that's going on right here. And you can select different tags, right? From here, you don't have to manually type it, but the parameter passing and where to find that. So if you looked in global objects, like right here, you can look up top and see that this is RA BAS, and then it says that it's the P VSD. So if you look down here, this is the PBSD. So that's that graphic right there. Right? So if I close that out, and it always asks you if you want to save, just don't ever save a global object unless you intended to change it, because it will affect your whole application. So back to what I was saying, if you wanted to use that, then you could simply you could itemize this all day long and figure out exactly what it's doing. You could look at every single attribute of it, like the touch, the visibility. So keep editing down until you find, you know, everything about it. Or you can simply come in here and tag substitution. And granted, this this looks a little bit, you know, I guess I would say a little bit more confusing. So this is why I like to actually have like I'll come in here and change, not change, but kind of just dig down and scroll down into it, kind of break it down. So if you can't actually get to it, then just hit edit and then come back up. Like if I wanted to see what this tag meant. So you see how I did that, right? And that's a multi-state indicator. So in whatever state it would be, it would show again that tag. And then so whatever we're passing in to 102, it is going to show a reference to that tag. And then if you look at the connection, you can easily say, so let's do that real quick. Let's just copy this and let's actually take what's into 102 and let's paste it in there. And what I want to do is I want to go into control objects and find it, just to kind of give you an indication of that this is actually in the system. So hold on, let's look at that a little bit closer, because what I put in there is I put in the, okay, so look in the brackets right here. This is the shortcut. So if I copy that, this is the processor shortcut. So you don't want to put that when you're searching for the tag. You want to just put this when you're searching for the tag and the control objects. So if it doesn't pull up, just don't worry. It's probably something that maybe you're doing. But you see that it come up right there. Now what we're looking for is this dot value status, or dot val status. So let's just scroll that down, and then we can see exactly what we're looking for. So you see right here we have dot value status. Right? This is the same tag, correct? So if you looked at it, we have our shortcut, again, just linking our control objects to our HMI system, and we have the actual tag, and then we have its you know, basically its structure, if you would. So understanding how to break down and break down your tag structure is really important to, I guess, how the HMI is working. And if you wanted to see what pops different things up, like this one is a lot different. So I'm just basically showing you how to come in here and grab things and use it. Excuse me, I'm a little congested for the reason. So again, this breaks down to the same thing we've seen here. So what would substitute this, right? Obviously, this would substitute it. So if we come in and build it again, we come in and just simply grab this, copy, paste, 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 and then paste. So that is exactly what that syntax right there is looking for. If I were to pass the parameter in 102 of this right here. So if you wanted to actually know what's driving the bus behind that and break it down even further, that's exactly how that's done. And we can look at, so this would, I would think this would be the parameter. So let me wait on this. So it's the same thing. So we come in here and pull that up. So it's basically saying if the tag, or if the motor, value is what, greater than 1, and the status is disabled, then 10, else value mode, right? Now that may seem a little confusing with the naming culture right here, but if you supplement it with what we have in 102, then it's pretty cut and dry. But if we keep, like I said, we can keep digging down and looking at everything that's in here. And we can also go into tag substitute and look at what screen's being called. So if you wanted to look at exactly what screen's being called, you can simply copy this. And again, I don't recommend editing this because it's predefined. But what I do is I like to come in here and look at it so I can fully understand it. Right? So in displaying, you want to display this faceplate, but you want to load this value into it. And then in parameters, so as the display opens, there's going to be a parameter passing tab. You want to load in the shortcut, which is right here. You want to load in the position. I'm assuming that they're throwing positions in here, like where they want to throw it, because it's an X of 150 and a Y of 50. So they're basically saying where they want to fall on the screen. And again, then you come in and throw in the rest of the values. So if we were to preload this, we would come in and copy this, and then we paste it in there, and then we'd keep building it out, right? So as it's done, we keep building it out. So that we can know exactly how the system is working and get a really, really good understanding of what's going on. And you see it gets longer and longer the further we go. So what I like to do sometimes is I like to actually break it down like that. Just kind of hit enter and just bring it back down to where it's legible for me. So that's exactly the way that would have looked. So I'm not sure if that kind of helped you out or what, but I mean, as far as like looking for a display, it pulls up the display you have. It's looking for, if we looked at it, it's looking for the looks like quick type. So there might be another display right here that's actually, let me pull that up again. We can actually go to that variable or go to that screen. So display this, right? So we want to look at what it's actually looking for. again, I believe it's pulling up some data in here. So we'd have to break that down and look at what it's pulling up. I'd have to go back in and you can look at tag substitution and find it. It's probably the best way, unless you can find where the button's being pushed. So let's see, infeed type, and then it says faceplate. So we would have to look for the type and faceplate. So and I want to say it's this faceplate right here. So the way it's pulling it up, and I may be looking at that a little different, but just kind of give you an idea of how to find stuff and how to go about using global objects and loading the parameters, and just grabbing one and dropping it onto the screen and using it. Like if we were to pull up another one, so the values that are loaded in here are, this is obviously the shortcut, the tag, the shortcut again, and then position. So in position, I believe what it's doing is, like, say for instance, I type it, it's not going to place it over here. It's going to place it right there every time. So if I pull up this one, it's going to place it right here every time. And I think that's where they're doing the X factor right here, the X. So the X and the Y is they're giving placement of where they want that screen. So again, if you come in here and you look at this, you can see exactly what's happening. So if I pop this up, it's going to go X to 200, Y to 10, and let's pull that up and see what it does, which is exactly what it did. So it come over and then drop down. So I hope that kind of like widened the perspective of how to find stuff and how to use it and how to just pop it in and be able to go through and find it in the ACD file. Because if we go back and look through this, we basically can find it in the ACD file. We can find the interlocks, permissives, and everything attached to it, but the main block that's driving it is going to be this tag right here. So, and again, we can open the definition if we wanted to and dig into it. We can open instruction logic, dig into it, but I will say this gets a little bit more complex because you're having to scroll down. You're not just all in the fold, top fold, I would say, but you could go through and look at and determine what's going on here. You just have to know that there's several instances of this, and say you're looking at because this is an add-on instruction. If you're looking at the default parameter, right, there's just a bunch of code in here with no values. But if you pull up the actual one you're looking for, which is the P3, then we're going to have actual data into it. And this is all meant to be a front-end system, so if you wanted to change something, like you wanted to change the name, you can just change the name right here, and then you don't have to, you can just hit, change the name to whatever you wanted to, like P3 motor control. And then you hit enter and it would take, and that tag would work, right? So we just want to exit out of that. I don't really care. But if we wanted to manually start it, so the operator could start it right here, all these controls work. But this gives you a better indication of how to find the tags and how to put it in the system, how to make it work. If you wanted to have more stuff on the screen, and just kind of breaking down how the parameter passing is working in a global object situation. This makes it so that you can use it in multiple areas. You can put just a bunch of them out here. I mean, you can sit here. I mean, actually, you can take this and copy it and paste it, right? Go in here and change the parameter to whatever you want it to. So say let's do this. Let's just say we want to put it at 25 to get a different position. This is just to give an illustration, right? I'm not actually showing it anything besides, let's refresh. Not showing anything besides just changing the height. So see how it came over here? Now if I come over here and pull this one up, it's going to pull up over here. So all we were doing right there is changing where the pop-up happens. And again, so you could come in here and change the values. You can put it, like if you added a new motor, you can just change it to P2. Obviously we don't have a P2, but you could. So what's going to happen then, it's going to wireframe. Because there's no tag there, there's no data. So if we come back here, refresh, and you see it has no data, it can't pull anything up because it's looking for P2. So down here in the very bottom, it has no, you can see exactly the tags that it's missing because it's wireframe. And we come back and you can easily fix that. The good thing about SE is you can go back and fix it really quick. So site addition is very helpful. But you can keep changing these and putting them wherever you wanted to, and have multiple functions. Change them. You don't necessarily have to go back to the global objects and use these. I would recommend that because you're getting a fresh instance every time. And you don't have to edit the tags or edit the base or anything of that nature. So real quick, we'll just delete these. We'll save the screen and come back and refresh. So we know that this is just the way that the system works, right? Fully functional, back the way it's going. Come back and we'll look at the dosing a little bit, or look at the sequencer and show how that's done a little bit longer. I know this video ran long. Sorry about that. Just want to, when it comes to parameter passing and stuff like that, there's so many questions about how it's laid out. There's so many questions about how to structure the tags and what's an easy way to do it. And I believe if you take what's there, what you currently have, and you just put it in like a notepad or something you can track, like all the parameter values and what they are equal to, then you can come out here and easily build the tag structure and the syntax of the object, and then understand how it works. So it takes away the guessing game, right? Instead of saying, well, I don't really know how that works. It's not that complicated if you really look at it. You can break down every single element to this if you just take your time and make a notepad or Excel spreadsheet or however you want to do it. And once you get one done and you understand the way it works, the rest of it will just fall in place, and it's just that much easier. So using this stuff as like a modular system to program is just, you can come in here and come into the code and granted, we can take the P3 and copy this whole thing and just take it or we can export it, import it, and bring it back into the system and have it working literally within seconds. And what I'll do on the next video is I'll actually show that. I'll take out the P3. I'll leave the P3 in there, but I'll take out the P3 and bring it back in as like P2, and then we'll get the P2 working. So again, I'm sorry about how long this video ran. Normally I like to keep them about 15 minutes, but to break down parameter passing and how to do it correctly, I believe this was value added, and this is very helpful. So I would love to hear your thoughts. If you would like to see more of this, how to actually use your own AOI and do parameter passing with a global object, and kind of build an HMI system with an AOI that you made, which is an add-on instruction that you made, or maybe even something like a process object that a process library object that Rockwell made. I mean, because this stuff is helpful and it's very easy, and a lot of it is implemented already that you have to just go back and troubleshoot it. So what makes your troubleshooting skills better is being able to learn how to break it down, break down the tag structure, and understand how it works. And that's just one of the tricks that I use is Notepad. There's probably a million ways to do this, but it helps me out greatly. So again, thank you for your time. I know this ran long. I will try the other one. I'm going to make a really short video on, so I will go ahead and try to link all these stuff together. But again, I appreciate your time, and drop me a line and comment below and let me know your thoughts. Thank you.